BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm David Currie and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Friday the 28th of March as we look ahead to the return of the Premiership this weekend.
Smashes it into the roof of the net on the rebound, and the holders have the lead. And of course, it's Dyson Maida, probable player of the year.
Dyson Maida is looking to score in his 8th successive league game as Celtic host Hearts, and there's a tea-time treat tomorrow night at Dens.
And it's a massive victory for Dundee at the foot of the table. It is a 20-year wait over for a victory here at Tannadice for the Dark Blues. What a game we have had.
Dundee follow up a derby win by hosting Old Firm derby winners Rangers. And there's more.
We know where we are, we know the points that we've got to this stage, we're happy with what we've done, but we want to get better and we want to improve, and that starts with, looking to get 3 points on Sunday against Dundee United.
Ross County will be looking to lift themselves up the table as they host Dundee United on Sunday.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
A very good morning to you folks, and a very good morning to a brace of Scotland internationals, Lee Miller and Gemma Fay. Folks will be absolutely champing at the bit to get back to domestic football, the old clothes and porridge, as they say, after the glitz and glamour of the internationals.
Yes.
Yes, we certainly are.
that wasn't convincing.
I don't know. It was such a build-up. It was such an intro.
Did you
it's fabulous.
It?
Well, I did actually. Yeah, it was nice.
I've not done this for a wee while, so never knowingly undersold. What about you, Lee? Desperate to get back to the Premier?
Looking forward to it. A few good games coming up, leading up to the split. To be honest, and it's a tough ask for some teams to get in that top six, and it'll be interesting next few weeks.
Right then, let's start off at Celtic Park, where Hearts are the visitors. Gemma, the big story is the goalkeeping position. Kasper Schmeichel out injured. Sinisalo, the big Finn, he's only played once this season in the cup. Hasn't featured at all in the league for Celtic. What's it like for a keeper to be thrown in to a situation like this? And what do you know about him?
So I don't know much about him. I know that he's had the spell on loan. I think it was at Exeter last year from Aston Villa. But besides that, I don't know too much about him. And perhaps the fact that Schmeichel has been so dominant and so important for Celtic in that role is one of the reasons we haven't seen him this season. Just looking at Schmeichel's stats, his save rate 77%, but I think that the most important stat there is his passing accuracy of 94%. He's really good at starting the build for Celtic. But look, as a goalkeeper, these are the types of situations which are more common than not. You get your break by getting chucked in there in a situation where there's usually what happens is it's an injury or there's like a significant drop in form. So he's a professional goalkeeper. He's a young lad, but if I'm him, I'd be seeing this as an opportunity to stake a claim for that position. We don't know how long Schmeichel's going to be out. It's a suspected shoulder injury. Those are not things that heal quickly, especially in a goalkeeping position with the robustness that you need in that part of your body. So depending on the severity, this could be Sinisal for the rest of the season, and he's got an opportunity to, in this kind of run-in, to support Celtic to secure that title and show Brendan Rodgers what he can do.
You're a Hearts player, you want to test them early though, eh, Lee?
Yeah, definitely. But I think in terms of goalkeeper, I think it's tough. I was speaking to somebody the other day about the whole goalkeeping situation. There's lots of boys that can be a number two for the full of their career, but they still have to, it's a strange position. You still have to prepare as if you're playing every single game, because if you're called upon, you need to be ready. So this is his opportunity to go in and show what he can do, and I'm pretty sure he'll be confident and raring to go, to be honest.
At the other end of the pitch, guys, the talk of the steamy is that Dyson Maida is going to be offered a new deal. Well, what's he done to deserve one?
I know he needs to work in his pace and his finishing, I think. No, he's incredible. He's a massive player for Celtic, and I think was that 8 consecutive games he's looking to score on the bounce. That's class, to be fair. I think he's incredible. He makes him tick. He makes him play a certain way. His press on the ball, his movement, and his finishing. I think this season has been much better, because I think he was criticised for his final ball in the final third. What he was doing with the ball. Yes, he would get there ahead of everybody, but it was what he was doing with the ball in that final crucial period.
Hearts, Gemma, in the top 6, just kind of at the skin of their teeth at the moment. They might still be top 6 after this weekend, even if they lose this one. But how do you assess their kind of prospects for a top 6 finish?
I think that they're pretty good. Like, that being said, I think, I was looking at the table before we came on, and there's between 5th and 9th. Every one of those clubs has got a chance of being in the top 6. Dundee United at 5th at the moment with 41 points, and Ross County 9th with 35. And Hearts are slap bang in the middle of that, sitting in 6th at this moment in time. Look, I think they've been on a good run of form. It took Neil Critchley a while, but he's got them there. They've won 7 out of their last 11 league games. I think it's going to be difficult for them to go to Celtic Park. That being said, Celtic will want a reaction. They've had an international break, but let's not forget that before that they lost to Hibs, and they'll be wanting a reaction out the back of that. The likes of hopefully McGregor returning, etc., will have a bit better balance in that midfield for them. But, you know, Hearts have been going well recently, and I think that if they continue, regardless of what happens at Celtic Park, if they continue with that kind of same level of form, I think that we could see them in that top 6.
Yeah, Hibs, you mentioned Hibs there, Gemma. They take on your beloved St Johnstone at the weekend. You might not envy the Saints facing Hibs, because what are they, 13 league matches unbeaten, and you referred to the league table there. A quick glance at that reveals Hibs flying high up to 3rd, which is remarkable given where they were November after a dismal start to the season.
I know, every time I come on this podcast I always say I just can't believe that where they are, bearing in mind what we were talking about. But I think we need to stop saying that. I think we actually just need to, you have to believe what you see, and they're sitting 3rd in the league, and they deserve to be sitting 3rd in the league in terms of what David Gray's managed to get that team to do. So I think I'm going to from now on say my expectation is, given the level of form that they've shown in the last few months, that's where they should be sitting. And what you would say is, and I don't think that Hibs can actually, this is quite funny, I don't think they can't hide behind where they were now. I think that's been and gone. And I think the expectation level should be where they are and what they've done, because they've shown that level. What will be interesting for Hibs is they've had a couple of players away on international duty, the likes of Boyle and Miller playing for Australia. How's that travel affected them, etc.? So getting these players back in, not to say that Easter Road is not a quite intimidating place to go, and St Johnstone, you know, the unbeaten in 4 in the league, a couple of draws in there, but unbeaten in 4. And as we've said previously, St Johnstone have played good football this year, and they're a good team to play against. But we are getting to crunch, aren't we? Where we need to win to stay in touch with the rest of the pack and try and claw our way ourselves up to 11th at least to get that kind of playoff spot for relegation. So it's going to be a tough ask, absolutely tough ask, but maybe there's a few tired legs in the Hibs team.
Gemma's pointing out St Johnstone's recent decent form, and they're only 5 behind Dundee. We'll come to Dundee a wee bit later, but if they could get a win against Hibs, I mean, they really put the pressure on the men from Dens, don't they?
It does. There's not much between the teams down the bottom end and middle, but the 2 Edinburgh teams are on form. The 2 Edinburgh teams are on form teams now, and to go to Hibs, to go to Easter Road, it's such a... You've seen the last few results they had, obviously the one against Celtic and the song after the game, and they've got a real together. They look as if they've got a real togetherness. David did a remarkable job there. Yes, they had a bad run at the start, but they are producing the goods now, and they're on an incredible run. So it's a tough ask for St Johnstone, but if they did get a win, it heaps the pressure on Dundee. Obviously, Rangers going to their place.
Yeah, well, let's move on to Aberdeen. Aberdeen, Motherwell. Aberdeen, their fortunes have improved a bit of late. Motherwell improving as well, seem well organised now.
Yep.
Lee under Michael Wimmer. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's a really tough one to call because Aberdeen, like you say, they have upped their game slightly. A little bit of consistency in there, but Motherwell, on the other hand, have turned things around in terms of their shape, their organising, their pressing high. They know what they want to be doing. Even going to away grounds, and you've seen that against Rangers. They pressed high, they had a good shape about them. All the players have bought into it. And I think the fact that they've had 2 weeks for Michael Wimmer to get his points across, because he only had getting into that Rangers game, I think he only had the week, maybe not even that, to get his points across and how the style he wants to play and exactly what he wants from his players at different key moments in games. So it was probably good for him to get that 2 weeks with all the players, whereas there's a lot of teams that are playing tomorrow didn't want that international break to come. They just wanted to keep going and keep the momentum going and stuff. So no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to go up to it as well, so I'm looking forward to the game.
Do you care to hazard a wee prediction for that one? Or do you want to plead the fifth?
2-1 Motherwell.
2-1 Motherwell. Gemma, this is an intriguing one now. St Mirren against Kilmarnock. What are they both on? Well, St Mirren a wee bit ahead of Kilmarnock. 3 points in it. But see when you look at this one, I hate to use the phrase bogey team. I'm not sure that has any currency here. Well, maybe it does because it's about 10, 11 games since St Mirren beat Kilmarnock. Derek McInnes, he seems to have got the measure of St Mirren.
He does, and I think I read something this week when they talked about the Kelly juggernaut coming to St Mirren, because they just, it is, I do believe in bogey teams, and I think that Kelly is that for St Mirren. They, some way, shape or form, Derek McInnes seems to have the measure of how to play against St Mirren and how to get results against St Mirren, and it's something that Kelly need, is a result against St Mirren. As you say, they sit in 10th with 32 points. They don't want to find themselves down there come the end of the season in that dogfight. They kind of want to push. I think top six is probably mathematically is it out of it, probably out of it, but as far up that table as they can.
St Mirren, Lee, they've managed to beat Rangers a couple of times this season. Big wins against likes of Aberdeen, beating Hibs, and yet Kilmarnock has just been too tough a nut to crack for them.
It's a strange one, actually. It is a strange one, but I agree with Gemma. There are teams that are bogey teams, and for whatever reason, we get one over on them. But Stephen Robson, he can't hide away from that. I think that'll be in the press, obviously, and he'll know that. I don't know if he'll tell the players that or he'll make them aware of that. But it's an interesting one because St Mirren can sneak into that top six. Kilmarnock want to escape fighting about that bottom end. So it's, listen, see these last 3 games going into the split, they're all cup finals for clubs, and managers will be telling them. Cup final games, go and see what you can do, see what happens round about you, and you see where you end up at the end of the day. So it's exciting. It is exciting all around, I think.
Let's take a wee look at Saturday night's match. Tea time kickoff at Dens Park, Dundee versus Rangers. Gemma, Dundee had been on a terrible run, but they managed to win the derby just before the break. Lee said there a lot of teams maybe wouldn't want the international break to come. Would Tony Docherty and his Dundee have fitted into that description?
Well, off the back of that win, no, they would want to keep the momentum going. And that was I was banking on that being a Dundee United win, to be honest. I was thinking, right, gonna lose that. That's gonna get us closer. That's gonna close the gap to 3 points, and then they bang out with a 4-2 victory. So yeah, I think Tony Docherty would have loved for that just to roll into that game versus Rangers, bearing in mind what happened back in January when Rangers went up to Dens Park, was one of the nails in Clemont's coffin. But it's. I think the games that Dundee versus Rangers and Dundee versus Celtic this year have been really good games. I think they've been really exciting games at Dens Park, and I think Rangers domestically, Barry Ferguson hasn't had a lot of time domestically with the team. They've had 2 games. They've beat Celtic. They'd already found a way to beat Celtic this year, and they lost to Motherwell. So I don't think that Barry Ferguson and his Rangers team are proven yet domestically. And I always talked about whether or not Ferguson gets this job long term is not about whether or not he gets far in the Europa Cup, but whether or not he can win on a rainy night at Dens Park in Dundee. And I think it might be a rainy night at Dens Park in Dundee. So we might see his Rangers team tested a bit here. So it's an exciting one. From St Johnstone's perspective, I hope they absolutely get done by Rangers. But I don't think they will.
Say what you feel, Gemma. Listen.
Hi, Lee. It's a curious case Rangers this season, hasn't it? Whether it's under Clement or Barry Ferguson, some tremendous results, and then they just seem to show a real vulnerability in games you would expect them to be winning.
Yeah, from Dundee's aspect, I think Tony Docherty will be annoyed that he doesn't have to get it seems as if he doesn't have to get the players up for the Old Firm games. They take care of themselves. Everybody's up for it. They want to do well against Old Firm. It's the games against the rest of the clubs round about them and stuff. But I think, as well as we're saying Dundee would have wanted to continue it, Rangers would have wanted it as well off the back of the Old Firm victory. So it will be interesting. It's a tough place to go, especially in a rainy night, wind blowing, all the rest of the elements. It's shaping up for a really interesting game.
Now, yesterday at his media conference, Barry Ferguson was saying he would love Václav Černý to stay on at Rangers. He's on loan from Wolfsburg till the end of the season. The form he's been in, I think most Rangers fans would want him to stay, but I guess everything's kind of up in the air with Rangers, isn't it, Gemma?
Yeah, look, I think with the new ownership coming in, they'll have a model, won't they? And whether or not the valuation, it's about 5 million or something they have to pay for him. Something along those lines. I'm not sure that they would be willing to pay that amount, because I don't think they would think that they would get that amount back, be it in future sell-on fee and or the value you could attribute to Černý in terms of prize money that they would bring in. So I think Rangers are going to go through this transition phase where they move from emotive-based signings to there's going to be a formula here. And at this point, if it's this, somewhat like Liverpool do when you're over 30, we're only going to offer you 1 year deal type stuff. Like, this is the value, this is what category you fit into. We're going to have a matrix of where, and a depth chart of what that looks like. And at this point, if we don't see any value return over this, we're not going to pay that. And I think that you might start to see a bit more of a hardline approach, which actually some Rangers fans might welcome, considering some of the absolute nonsense that they've signed in the past and the deals and how much they've lost in the past. Like, there's a few that you could, in just in terms of last summer, that left for about 600 grand. You're like, Cantwell being one of them. But yeah, I think there would have to be some convincing to pay that amount for him. Not to say he's a bad player, I don't think he is. I think he's been a really good player for Rangers, but it's just in terms of the other criteria that they might build around their transfer policy.
Now, before we move on to Sunday's game in the Premiership, we'll talk about the Championship, because there's a real bill topper at Somerset Park, shall we say. It's Ayr United against Dunfermline, but it's Neil Lennon facing Scott Brown in the dugout. Friends United here, Lee? It's
such an intriguing one, isn't it? Victor Wanyama, if he gets his clearance in time as well, it's an interesting game. Obviously, loads riding on it. Neil Lennon going back, he's back in amongst Scottish football. It'll be all eyes on that game. And I've got a lot to play for as well. Ayr United obviously up top end, Dunfermline down the bottom end, fighting their way out of that, well, not relegation battle, Airdrie are cut adrift a little bit. So, but Ayr United will want to keep the pressure on Livingston and Falkirk. It's a bit of a long shot for that, but they're in the playoff spot. So, it'll be interesting to see their handshake and their coming up against each other.
You can almost imagine a pre-fight boxing presser here, a face-to-face. Emma, but Neil Lennon, wherever he goes, he's box off.
He is, and let's be honest. If 2 weeks ago you said Neil Lennon's going to be taking on Browns, Ayr United, and Victor Wanyama will be making his debut for Dunfermline, right? You'd be thinking I was on something. But that is the beauty of Scottish football. I remember I got asked this last week. I remember Neil Lennon going to Dunfermline. I'm like, I can't see that. Obviously wrong. I also got asked about whether or not who would win the Women's League Cup. Got that one really wrong as well. Oh. So I'm not going to offer a prediction on this. Well, I could just bet on the opposite happening. But it is, you have to sometimes sit back and say Scottish football's nuts. You have to, don't you?
It throws curveballs from everywhere, yeah.
Right then, let's go on to that game on Sunday. Dundee United away to Ross County in the Premiership. Ross County, 35 points. Gemma, Dundee United, 41. There's not that much. There's not that much in it.
No, there's not that much in it at all. I guess there's Sam Dalby in it. He's the guy that you could say that could be a difference maker in terms of what he's brought to Dundee United, and but it's a tough place to go, Dingwall, isn't it? It's not an easy place to go, and I think this will be a real battle. I think it will be a real battle. It could be a draw. I could see that happening. I could see Jordan White and Sam Dalby battling out at corners to see who can get above each other to try and get something on the end of that. I would say that, though, that Jordan Amish, they've just signed him on a 2-year deal. I think that's a great bit of business for Ross County, getting security in that goalkeeping department, and he's done pretty well for them since he's come in. But both of them have got something to aim for. Dundee United to try and catch Hibs in that third spot, and also maintain the top 6 spot. And Ross County, if they're going to make a charge for that top 6, which they can still theoretically do, they've got to take something out. In fact, they probably need to take all 3 points out of that game. So it's really interesting. But the one thing that Don Cowie said this week is the consistency part for Ross County, and I'd agree with that. You don't actually sometimes know when Ross County are going to go on that bit of a run, and then when they lose, it kind of comes out the blue a little bit. So a bit more consistency from Ross County is what he's looking for, and if they can get that, I mean, they could be a surprise package.
What's your thoughts on this one, Lee?
Dundee United have not got a great run at the moment. They're not in a great run. They've won 1 out of the last 6 games. That was against Motherwell. At home, I was actually at that game, and they were better than Motherwell, but like Gemma says, there's a hell of a lot to play for. Considering where Ross County were at one point, everybody thought they were going to get cut adrift. And Don Cowie's done a really good job up there. He needs a lot of credit. I think he's a top manager, and he'll go really far. I think he's got them playing a certain way. They're all buying into it. They're all playing for him, working hard for him. I think, I don't want to say it because I want Motherwell to get top 6, but I think Ross County will sneak that game.
Right, the whole football weekend starts tonight, as it were, in the SWPL. It's one that catches the eye again, Gemma. I mean, it's such a competitive league, but it's Glasgow City against Celtic, and both sides really need the win here. Yeah.
So this is like, I mean, we say the Championship's tight. This league is tight. Like, at the moment, Hibs are sitting top of that league after I was at beating Glasgow City. Was it last week or the week before? And I was at the game, and it was the strangest game because Hibs had no shots, really. Glasgow City had the majority of the ball. created a few chances, hit the post, and you would have said if Glasgow, like it was heading for a 0-0, and you kind of would have said that, yes, 0-0, but Glasgow City probably edged this, and then Hibs just turn up, last kick of the game, corner, boom, goal. And all of a sudden, Hibs are sitting pretty, Rangers second, Glasgow City third, Celtic fourth, and Hearts back in fifth. All of them can win it. All of them can win the league. And you just can't call it. But what you have to say is, I think there's something like 6 points between Hibs and Celtic in fourth. So Celtic probably need to win this game to stay in touch with that top pack. Glasgow City can probably afford to lose it and still be in with a shot of winning the league. I think Celtic need to win this one.
Well, after your League Cup predictions gone awry, I won't ask you.
No, don't do it.
Gemma, anyway, thanks very much to our guests today, Lee Miller and Gemma Fate, and thanks very much, folks, for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast, bright, breezy and early every day. So to make sure you don't miss out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone.
On BBC Sounds. From life aboard a Russian submarine to chairman of Hearts Football Club.
At this stage, he was the hero.
But as his controversial decisions escalated,
they said, we're going to sack George. And I'm going, you can't do this.
How did Vladimir Romanov go from Hearts saviour to a wanted man?
They caused a whole load of chaos and havoc.
Romanov, Tsar of Hearts. Listen now on BBC Sounds.